Welcome to Fortress of Faith with Tom Wallace, calling North America to repentance and revival.
Well, we're back once again at the corner of truth and courage. You're listening to Fortress of Faith. This is Tom Wallace. Again, I want to follow up a little bit more about the Islamic terrorist attack that we experienced here recently in the United States. As we welcome in the new year in 2025, we woke up with the news that a Muslim he's actually an American, he's homegrown, and this is a very interesting development. I mean, we are concerned about the amount of Muslims that have immigrated into our country, come in as refugees. We've had an open border policy under the Biden administration. We know that people that were on the terrorist watch list, at least 99 of them, have slipped into our country that were captured. What about those that we did not? The gotaways. We know that there's a lot of people who we didn't catch. We don't know who they are. And so we know that they've been gaining entrance into our country, but this attack was not done by a foreign-born Muslim. It's an American soldier, no less, that converted to Islam and publicly announced his joining of ISIS on social media just before he carried out the attack. And he was living in a Muslim community, well known to be a Muslim. Now, how does a foreigner, how does someone who's not born into Islam become a Muslim? Well, all they have to do is to say the Shahada with faith, with the belief in the presence of two Muslims, and they officially are converted into Islam. They become Muslim at that point. So I want to put the focus on ISIS, on the terrorist group ISIS. Let's put the spotlight on them. We've not really talked about them in 8-10 years, really, because when Trump came in as president, he took them out real quickly. Obama pretty much dismissed the threat. This is the JV team. Oh, yeah? They became one of the most ruthless terrorist organizations that the world has ever known. They identify themselves with the ISIS flag. Well, what is that? That black flag with Arabic writing. On it, it says, "There is no God but Allah." That's part of the Shahada. The Shahada is, "There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet." If you say that with belief, you become a Muslim. It has that statement, "There is no God but Allah." That is the creed of Islam. And it has a circle with old Hijaz script of Arabic, and that's believed to be the early seal of Muhammad, which repeats pretty much the same thing again. There is no God but Allah. So what does ISIS mean? Well, this group came out of Al-Qaeda. Now, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of terrorist organizations, and these are Sunni Muslims. And so there's going to be more Sunni terrorist groups than there are Shiites. The Shiites are only about 10% of the Muslim world. And mainly they are Iran, the government of Iran, Hezbollah, which is up in Lebanon, a lot of Shiites up there, the Houthis over in Yemen, and a few others that are dotted around. But, they are minimal. Hezbollah would be the biggest of the terrorist groups, but then you have the state of Iran. In the Muslim world, people say, well, which is more vicious? Which one's more violent? Well, they all are. As far as terrorists, they all have the same mission: to destroy Israel and to destroy the infidel, and to make Islam the only religion in this world, and to either subjugate non-Muslims or kill them. If they will not convert to Islam and subjugate to pay jizya, then they are carrying out the true mandates of Muhammad. They live their Islam like Muhammad did. And so they're the real face, sadly, the real face of Islam. But ISIS has become the most brutal version of it all. Now, when Obama was our president, he used to call them ISIL, the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. Daesh would be the Arabic, but when we translate that into English, we'd have the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. Now, Syria is still a broken state, and we still have parts of ISIS there. But when we took out al-Baghdadi and his death, who was the leader of the Islamic State, of ISIS, it fractured the organization. And so we have versions of it in places of Africa, in Asia, in the Middle East, and in operatives that are in Europe and in America. And they're recruiting. They're still recruiting people to their cause. To do what? To establish the Islamic State. This is the Khalifa, the idea of the Khalifa, the Caliphate. As I mentioned here yesterday, in the Sharia law book, it's very clear. You can see it there quite easily. The first 370 pages deals with their God. How do they worship their God? It's their religion. But Muhammad was not just creating a religion. He was creating a government. And the next 700 pages deals with the government of Islam. How do you, rule yourself? Courts and justice and marriage and a social system and an education system, a banking system, and it covers everything. For goodness sake, it even tells you how to go to the bathroom. Honestly, it does. It's just, Islam is so inclusive of every part of your life. And its goal, its mission is to rule the world. Some people say that, well, Islam means peace. No, it doesn't. Islam means submission. Submit to Allah, to God. Submit to God. And those who are submitted are called Muslims. That's what Muslim means, the submitted one. And they are ordered to strike fear in the hearts and bring death and kill others if they do not believe and yield to the way of Islam. Most of the people that were in ISIS originally came out of Saudi Arabia, actually, and they came down into Iraq and to Syria to fight after America pulled out. Thank you, Obama. Pulling our army out, we left a lot of weapons there, and we left a vacuum. And so that gave the terrorist, Al-Qaeda, the opportunity to seize the weapons, everything that America left behind to build a new state of Iraq. They stole it all, and the oil. And they became very wealthy. Well, they had a split, and ISIS was formed. Al-Baghdadi declared himself as the Khalifa, as the successor of Muhammad. And this has been the goal of Muslims since 1920. The last caliphate that was in existence that lasted for over 600 years was the Ottoman Empire, the Ottoman Khalifa. And it's been without a central leadership. The Muslim world has been. And the fundamentalists have taken this opportunity to seize the Islamic world. And as they do, more violence comes if they're fundamentalist. Now, thankfully, there's a second version of Islam out there, a fake version, a reformed version that the Ottomans began to teach. And most of the leaders in the Middle East, people like MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, who's now the crown prince of Saudi Arabia, he wants the Ottoman version. So does the king of Jordan, Abdullah II. So does president of Egypt. And, they want a peaceful version. And so they've been kicking out all these people. That's why none of them want the Palestinians in their country, because these people are fundamentalists. They are jihadis. And they don't want that anymore in the Middle East. They like how it used to be under the Ottoman Empire. Well, the Wahhabis, who are the fundamentalists of Saudi Arabia, they're the ones who formed Al-Qaeda and also formed ISIS. And so we have plenty of people who are joining it internationally because that is the dream of Islam. What's the goal? To reestablish the Islamic State. That's what the Khalifa is, the Islamic State. And to make it worldwide, to make it global. And so every dream of a fundamentalist Muslim is that the world would come under the subjection of Islam and false religions like Christianity, Jews, and polytheists like Hindus and Buddhist and animist. All the other religions are false in their understanding and teaching. And so they are either to be killed, eliminated, or subjugated or converted to Islam. If they can't convert them, kill them. If they can't subjugate them, kill them. Those are the three choices. To live as a dhimmi, someone subjugated to Islam, where you provide for them, you give them 50% of what you own and 50% of what you earn. This is exactly what ISIS was doing in Iraq and in Syria when they had control of those areas. It was very brutal. If you did not convert to Islam, many were killed. And they have a practice called al-Sabi. Al-Sabi is taking of sex slaves, taking of the women that are non-Muslims. They kill their husbands, and now their marriage is over, and so now they are free to become wives of Muslims or just simply sex slaves. And they have what's called muta marriages because they can't perform in their religion. Rightfully, they cannot perform adultery. But if it's a non-Muslim, then they can say, well, I marry you and have sex with them and then divorce them when they're finished. So they've not committed adultery. They have a loophole for that. Terrible stories of what was going on in Syria and Iraq during that time. When Obama was our president, we know that there were over 300 Americans who went to join ISIS. We know that they are in our country as sleeper cells, have come across the border. We should expect more trouble. But they live under the orders of their commanders, and their commanders are waiting for the right moment. They're not going to attack when they've got a sympathizer in the White House, someone like Biden, who is not making things hard for them. They're not going to take him out or hurt him or make his name bad. But now Trump is president. I suspect they're going to send a few messages, and we saw the beginning of this perhaps, this beginning of this year. Now, is there hope? Yes, there is hope. Thankfully, we have a great intelligence and great law enforcement in our community. We spend lots of money. I'm concerned, though, with how they're being trained because they've been in the hands of liberals for some time. Homeland Security has been weakened by Biden and the Obama types. But I do believe that they still want safety for our country, and they're keeping a good eye on this. But we need to pray for our national leaders. We need to pray for our government, and pray for these Muslims that God, the true God of heaven, would minister and speak to their heart and convict them of their evil and of their wickedness. Well, that's going to be it for today. Hope these things are helping you to have a better understanding of what's going on in our world. Join us again tomorrow at the Corner of Truth and Courage. God bless you.